There we go. All right, so we are live finally, episode FiberCast number 15. So it's kind of a milestone. 15 episodes, just like I was telling you before we started the episode. It's kind of weird to like think about just how many hours I've sat here. Like the fact that I really don't really know what I'm doing, like it's just an experience. Like it's just trying new things out. It started off with an idea. It started off with me listening to the Joe Rogan Experience a lot. So Joe Rogan was and has been and continues to be my main mentor, if you will. So he's been like my teacher because I dropped out of college because of the whole fiber thing. And so I had to find a source of, just like knowledge and just pure unfiltered knowledge. Because like that's what I go for. Like that's what I resonate with. Like that's what I enjoy. It's just, pure content. And that's why we just started by just talking right now. And we're not going to do like an intro. It's like people have recommended that I guess start the show off with certain questions or end the show with certain questions, like standard questions for every guest. And I just don't want to do that. I understand what they mean of like, for example, the motto of the show is for outliers by outliers, right? Where everybody's an outlier in their own right because everybody has a story worth telling. Someone recommended that I'd like ask questions regarding like what makes you an outlier. So we would like end the episode with me asking you like, what do you think makes you an outlier? Or I would start the episode of like, this is Luis. Like, what do you think makes you an outlier? And that to me just goes against the whole idea of this show. It's like, why spend 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it may be, to in the end kind of try to summarize everything and compact it into like a sentence or two, that won't even encapsulate the whole meaning behind who you really are or like what you represent. And so, for example, you said that the episode that I did with Samara, right? Yeah. So that was a really like emotion-packed episode because she was capable to being, open, and she was very just comfortable with her vulnerabilities. And so she was able to express, like personal things, personal issues. And to me, like you would pick up more value from her telling those stories and her reaction and her life experience. And you would kind of understand why she's an outlier because of that. Of course. Not because of her definition of what makes her an outlier in her perceived reality. It's like, it's just, so I don't do any, intro, like, what's up, guys? Welcome back to episode. No, fuck that shit.
Yeah, it's the most natural.
It's just flowing, it started. Yeah. And the only thing I'll say at the beginning of every episode is like, and we're live, it's just to let people know. It's to let the guests know, I guess, it's just so. But eventually it'll get to a point where we'll just be sitting and talking before, and then someone that'll be like managing everything will say like, and we're rolling. So then they'll just let me know, and then I'll be like, okay, and we're rolling, by the way. So So what made you because I know that I was trying to think, when did I first reach out to you talking about the whole podcast idea?
I think it was close to a year ago.
It was more than a year ago, right? Or maybe even more. Yeah, close to a year ago.
I think it was close. Yeah, probably around 9 months.
Yeah, it's been such a fucking long time. And to me, it's just weird, man. It's just weird because like I reached out and then we started talking about like, like let's do a podcast. And at the time, this table was like in the middle over here. Like the setup was very, very amateur, right? I'm not saying that I have like anything professional now, but compared to what it is now, like the whole process was kind of very antiquated. Like I had some Japanese, Chinese cameras that were fucking up all the time. Editing was slow as fuck. Like I would take months to edit one episode, so it was crazy. And then now we're here.
Of course.
Right? So, but now we're here in the circumstance that in the right circumstance, I feel like at the right time, and you spoke about being a Christian, right?
Yeah.
I do believe that things all have kind of like a purpose behind it, like there's a reason behind it. So there is a larger thing to me, like there is a larger force. And I do think that, that force knows what it's doing. Like it knows why it took a year for us to make this episode. It knows why why things are the way they are, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah.
Kinda,
It's crazy to think about, like, we're saying it was probably a year ago that we kind of started to throw out the idea of me coming on. And it's just crazy because it feels like it's like 5-6 years ago.
it feels like it's been ages.
So much has happened since then. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like and I kind of touched on that yesterday of just like how different you develop in such a short time, right? So the person you are today can differ immensely from the person you were a month ago, right? So like the idea of like, it 10 years had to go by in order for you to see a certain development or change, but that's so not the case. Like I'll look back to episodes that I did, like the first few episodes, and I'll just cringe. Like I'll cringe to the depth of my soul. Like I'll be like, like biting my hand. I'll be like, bro, like that's not me. It's like completely different person. It's like you're looking, I don't know. It's the weirdest feeling I could possibly describe. Like it's just, but I don't know, man. It's just the whole idea of time. Are you into like physics or whatever? Like into like the whole idea of like, not into physics as like, oh, like you do calculations and shit. Just like the idea of like, I don't know.
I mean, the most I guess physics or any scientific stuff that you'll see me doing is probably either if I'm watching like a Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, or finding a YouTube video about something.
Yeah.
Because math and science, that's just not my alley.
Which is funny, right? Because like I've always been bad at math and physics, right? But I just like you said, if I see like I guess an entertaining video or interview or podcast, it'll just start stimulating that thought process, And I think it comes from the entertainment factor. Like it's just entertaining. It's just because like school, you'll just sit down in a classroom and open up your textbook, and it's very monotone. It's very like boring. It's very, the teacher most of the time has no enthusiasm, has no passion for what they're doing. They're just going through the motions, and you're just a victim of that, of their, I guess, unhappy circumstance. Like you become a byproduct of that unhappiness, and that's kind of what I felt for physics. Although I had amazing professors, their form of teaching never really resonated with me. So like that's kind of why I just kind of always diverted from that. And then you cited the PUC, Goiás Estojo. I never went to PUC, but I was in what's the name when you're prepping to go to like Cursinho. Yeah. So I did Cursinho I think I did it for a year. I think it was a year. And then I did Cursinho, and I was just trying all of my options. Like I was trying PUC, and then PUC is known for not being as great, right? Like, você vai pra PUC, or you're going to PUC. For those of you who don't understand Portuguese, I'll try to keep it in English. But like you're going to PUC, and it's considered easy to get in school because you're paying, so it's not like a federal university, right?
And that's a drastic difference from what we have here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like private schools in Brazil are considered the worst schools.
Yeah, which is ironic, right? Very. Which is like counterintuitive. And yeah, so I was just trying to get into everything. Like I was trying to go like med school, and I was studying like crazy. But then I got to a point where I was just like, well, why am I doing all this? Like I'm not passionate about this. I'm not. Why? And then, but I tried out PUC, and then I went. I studied physics. I studied chemistry. Studied everything. But I'm only passionate about things now. And then now it's weird because when you get the chance and the opportunity to, how do I say this, to choose things to experiment rather than being force-fed, you find better, I guess, results with that.
Oh, definitely.
So if you take the initiative to pick up a physics book rather than being force-fed, the idea of like being tested and being evaluated and kind of minimized to a grade, it's just stupid, man. So what are you studying right now? Because I know you're at Rutgers, right?
Yes. I'm doing, I'm in the communications field. I'm doing media studies and journalism.
Okay.
And I'm also I haven't decided if I'm going to do a double major, if I'm going to minor, but I've been working with video production as well.
I've noticed that, yeah.
And it's been amazing.
Really?
It's been amazing.
What led you to that? Like, what led you to pick up a camera?
So, I mean, I joke around with my friends that I'm a dabbler. So I dabble with a lot.
Okay.
I've dabbled in the past.
Dabbled. Okay. Dabbler.
It's a great word.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've picked up a camera before, but I never really had a passion to go out and, really
Create.
create.
Yep.
And so I took a one required class that I had this past semester in the spring, and it was a video production class. And I guess like the first day, I just fell in love with it.
Wow.
And it's crazy because it's only like 6 months ago, not even. And I'm already, I have plans to make it more of a priority with what I'm studying and what I'm gonna end up doing in the future.
So basically transferring that hobby and making it a main thing, like more than just a hobby.
Oh yeah, of course. And I've been having ideas. Of course, it's at a very primitive stage right now. But I've been having ideas to maybe start a company up. Something basic for now, because I know that I'm probably not going to be living off of that.
Yeah.
At the exact moment.
Yeah.
Just get something started. Put my name out
100%.
there, put my material out there, and see what happens.
But starting a company is probably the best thing that you could do. Like starting like a mini marketing agency, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I do believe that content is very undervalued in terms of like companies, and just you can literally just walk into businesses, like local businesses, and you offer your craftsmanship and your creativity, and just tell them, hey, I can get you more clientele, I can get you more I guess recognition, or I can help you build brand equity and stuff. And you just like try to prove it to them. Like it'll take time because people are very stubborn nowadays, and especially like well-established businesses, like they, it's that age-old saying of if a team's winning, why change it, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that's a bad mentality and bad mindset to have nowadays, and that's actually one of Fiber's strong points, or will be, I should say, once it's up and running. It's just always pivoting, always morphing, always understanding consumer behavior, always understanding what people like. Like people are posting more videos of this and this, so we should probably integrate that to the business model. We should probably do it. And most companies are just like, but whatever, like we're still making money, so fuck you,
Exactly.
But if you were to do that, I can see that easily being a good, good endeavor, a good practice to just, or maybe since you're starting off, just like walk into businesses and just offer free value. Just like offer a 1 month trial and say, hey, like let's test this out. If you see significant or satisfying gains from our experience and our relationship, then we can, discuss numbers once we're finished with that, process. But, marketing is just, so communications, like what does that encapsulate, I guess? Like communications meaning like public relations?
I guess communications is just like the more broad term, because there's just so many things that fall under the umbrella of communications.
Yeah, journalism.
So you have journalism, you have public
yeah.
relations.
Yeah.
But like that's where, I'm a person that I like everything that has to do with media, journalism, public relations,
Okay. Yeah.
And just, I think that if I, come out with a communications degree, that just really opens the playing field for me.
Of course,
and I feel like I can exploit that. Not exploit that in the sense of like, the negative connotation of the word.
Yeah, of course.
But exploit it in the sense that
Branching out.
Exactly. Yeah. I can branch out. I can do a few things because it's something that comes naturally to me. You know, and I think that I can very well, get my foot in the door of, various markets because of it.
Yeah.
So it's something that I really, of course I'm my first year in college.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And so I'm, still, seeing how everything is going to work out.
Yeah.
But, it's something that I've really fell in love with.
But no, and you're definitely doing the right thing in terms of like, you're actually pursuing something that you feel you like, right? Like you feel, just like you said, it's your first year. So you've been, experimenting with different areas. Like you're experimenting now with content creation and you fell in love with it. So in a year from now, you could be a totally different person, right?
Definitely.
But the fact that you've actually managed to, go into college with the right mindset of like actually pursuing and digging deeper into something that will actually benefit you long term, and you planned accordingly, and you're not just like, because most people just go into college and they're just free flowing, just like, I don't know why I'm here, I exist and therefore I am. It's like it's so stupid. Like you're wasting money. Like that's my only I guess, negative thing with college. And I say that because on my social media, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm very prolific with my opinion. Like, I'll just like say shit, and I'll just, and you know, it kind of polarizes people. Like, I have a lot of followers who go to college who are, you know, against the fact, or think that I'm totally against it or whatever, but I'm not. I'm just totally against the fact that most people just waste time and money that can be used elsewhere. So if you're not wasting time or money and you actually know what the fuck you're doing, then for sure,
Of course.
just like go like balls deep, just, you know, just pursue it and just make it happen. But have you always been a people person? Because communication ties being a people person, right? Like being social, being
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, in terms of what I've been, I think it's fair to say that I've changed a lot during my life. There have been, you know, points in my life where I have been a bit more insecure, points in my life where I've been, you know, more outgoing. And I feel like right now, and again, I'll say that, you know, I'm almost 19 years old, and I know that there's still a lot ahead of me.
How old are you?
I'm going to be 19 in like...
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
few days.
I did not expect that. I
Yeah.
thought you were at least like 22 or 23 or something like that. Do you get that a lot?
I do.
Damn, man.
do.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're young as fuck.
I am.
And you managed
It's
to
crazy.
cultivate that mindset, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because I felt there's this weird feeling of just like, I know when I want to have someone on the podcast, right? A lot of people will even like reach out and say like, oh, like we should do an episode and stuff. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
sure. It's
maybe.
like, but like the people that I really want to do an episode with, again, I don't care about following. I don't care about if you're famous, if you're this, if you're that. It doesn't matter. To me, what matters is just the fascination that I have with just like like your mindset. It's like I'm fascinated by like understanding what leads to that. And you said you're fucking 18, right?
Yeah,
You're 18 and you just cultivate that mind. But I don't mean to distract you from what you were saying.
No,
So
it's all
the
good.
whole like people person thing, it took you time to
Yeah,
develop.
and like I said, I mean, I know there's a lot ahead of me,
Yeah.
but I feel like I'm at a place right now where I think I found a healthy medium, you know? I'm not going to be that person that's going to, you know, if I see, like, I'm not going to go out and be like this, you know, flashy person, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to be that person that just like completely isolates myself. And I feel like I've, you know, built the right relationships with people the right way. And I feel like I found that, you know, like I said, the healthy medium.
That avenue that you can traverse on. No, yeah, you definitely have to develop that. Like I'm 100% there with you, and even probably to like a worse extent, where I've always been very introverted. I've always been, you know, contrary to popular belief or to whatever someone's, you know, watching this might think, and to the whole thing that I'm trying to do here. And people think that I'm very extroverted, right? But like, I don't know, man. It's weird. I like to consider myself being an ambivert, which is both of them. It's like, you know, there are times when I'm very introverted. There are times when I'm very extroverted. So I'm the type of person that I can be very, very extroverted, but I need time of isolation.
Yes.
Like I need to close myself out to a point where it gets intense. It's like I just want to be able, just leave me alone. Just leave me. Just give me these, you know, these 2 hours or 1 hour, 30 minutes. I need just take a break. And if I don't get that, then it just starts getting, it just starts just deteriorating like my mental health. Like I just, and the irony of that is that once Fiber's open, I'll be the person always there, you know, like always communicating with people and stuff. But I've already established, you know, a place where I'll just go and just, it'll be like Callie's little place. It's like, that's where I'll go, relax, turn everything off. If you need me, just handle it, you know, but I just need that balance. And I feel like you have to establish that balance, and you have to, again, learn how to, you know, communicate and how to read people and how to understand people, create social skills.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I think balance is the key word there.
Yeah, 100%.
Like everything that, you know, everything that works out in life, in business, in, I guess, school, whatever, is balance.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like once you, and I also, I have the opinion that I don't think you ever fully achieve balance. And just striving for balance, though, I feel is something that, you know, will make you a better person.
That's interesting.
So, yeah.
Never achieve balance. Yeah, because the idea of balance is that there's one specific spot that you will eventually achieve, you know, like this top right here, like if I put it in a specific in a specific spot, it'll, create that balance. But the idea of having a fixated point in space that never alters, never falters, like it's always there, that doesn't exist. Like that's unrealistic, right? So
And
it's
the
always
world is changing. Yeah, it's always
so
changing.
your perception and idea of balance may change. So the balance to you right now as a college student is different from 10 years from now or 20 years from now or even earlier when you have a kid, right? So if you're a husband, if you're like working, if you're doing whatever, it's gonna be a different balance. It's gonna, life work balance. When you're an elder person, it's gonna be a different balance, health balance, whatever. So balance is the key word for sure in everything. And it takes time for you to actually develop that pursuit for balance. It's difficult because it requires introspection. It requires a firm understanding of self. It requires you to take a step back and understand and just get to know yourself better.
And I feel like a lot of times that's like what frustrates a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is really trying to find it. And when they can't find it, they kick the bucket. They're like, no,
They just give up. And that's when they resort to different avenues and like toxic environments.
Very
and
true.
Crowd mentality and, just going out every single weekend, every single day. Like I'll follow people, I'll, occasionally check their stories and just always partying. Always like it's a Tuesday night partying, boomerang with shots. It's like my reaction to that is what's going on with that person? Like that person's not okay. Like there's some like deep overlooked issues that person is neglecting and trying to overcompensate and because overcompensation is another key word to like my approach to analyzing everything around me. It's like when you meet someone and that person is overtly or overly one way, that means that they're trying to compensate for something else.
Of course.
And I've touched on this yesterday. It's like your brain doesn't know how to measure.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't know like 5 millimeters of humbleness, 5 millimeters of, like confidence, and that should level him out. It's like it just overdoes it. It's like, oh shit, like he lacks confidence, so he needs to survive, so it gets in survival mode, and then it just pulls the lever, and then now you're overconfident. That's why all of these, famous people who kill themselves and commit suicide, Mac Miller, Robin Williams, they're always smiling. They're always like, oh, like everything's great. Like they have a perfect life. And then boom,
what's behind
you just
that
find
smile?
out. Yeah. You just find out later. It's like, oh, committed suicide.
Yeah.
And then it shocks you because that facade breaks.
Yeah.
And then when that facade breaks, that's when things happen.
It's where you see people resorting to like completely other things. Like you said, people just resort to going out, getting drunk every night, drugs, I don't know. And it's, something that you really have to start to question at one point, like what's going on there.
Yeah. Escapism. It's like people like to escape, right? Everything's an escapism. And I'm not saying that I don't have escapisms, but it's how you choose those escapisms and if they're healthy or not.
It's a natural thing.
You can escape working out. You can escape editing videos. You can escape creating. But again, there's the toxic part, which is, resorting to bad, friendships and relationships and getting into toxic environments. And you have to choose your, environments, everything very carefully and be kind of I'd also like to say this is, be selfish. Being selfish is a prerequisite to being selfless, because being selfish in a sense of like reserving the right and reserving all the energy that you have and giving it to the right people. So giving affection to the right people, giving attention, giving respect to the right people. And to me, it's a finite resource. It's not unlimited because it gets tiring. Like you get exhausted. So, you can only give so much love or so much attention at one given time. So you have to choose the right person and choose the right people. And that's just knowing how to allocate,
of course,
resources.
You have to take care of yourself as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people,
mental health.
You see a lot of people, they're the most selfless people in the world. And by no way, like, am I criticizing that?
Yeah.
But a lot of times they'll forget to take care of themselves. And that's where they start deteriorating.
Yeah. And then it circles back to the overcompensation thing, because we were talking about the Just Waters from Jaden Smith. Jaden Smith is a very interesting person to me because he's the epitome of golden. How do you say it? I'm trying to translate the Portuguese term. Berço de ouro.
I don't want to say anything like pejorative because I feel like all the American expressions for that are very pejorative.
Yeah. but basically he just silver spoon. Silver spoon. So
Yeah.
he's the perfect example of silver spoon. And then when I see, like, again, I'm not bashing. I'm just like analyzing it from an objective psychological standpoint. It's like he's doing all of these charity acts, which is great. He's helping the environment. You know, like I support the movement that he's doing. Like I'll always buy his waters for this podcast because I also respect what he represents. But I do think that he goes through a lot of personal issues that are unresolved.
Definitely.
Having his parents be, you know, these superstars that aren't always present, maybe. Even though Will Smith presents himself as being a wonderful, amazing dad, I think that there's also some overcompensation in that part as well. So like it can get kind of dark in a sense where people will misinterpret my words and my, you know, just everything I'm saying right now and say like, oh, like you're just, you know, bashing them for no reason. It's just, to me, it just, you know, like there's something there. And then he has these identity crisis, and I think a lot of people go through that as well, of like not knowing who he is because he's always in the public eye, and he's experimenting with different looks and, you know, painting his hair and doing this and doing that. But I feel like charity acts are just because maybe he didn't get enough affection when he was a kid. And now he's trying to give affection and trying to, you know, I don't know, man. It's just, see, like, like I'm over analytical, like small things. I'll just like start like trying to stem down to like what's the root cause there, like who is he really, like why, like why is he doing that?
And that's really something that like you will never really know. Because I mean, the chances of you becoming, you know, Jaden Smith's like best friend at one point, to the point where he'll tell you everything that's gone on, is like they're very, I mean, slim. But I feel like it's good to always have these questions about, you know, especially in people that are in the public eye, you know, because you really start to question, you know, who they are, and not necessarily in a bad way. But it gets you thinking.
And just the fact that we have to kind of address like, oh, like, by the way, we're not bashing on him, we're, you know, analyzing, just goes to show like where we stand right now as a society. Like people aren't willing to have a conversation anymore, to like have a dialogue. It's like, let's talk about something. Like if we disagree on something, like let's have a conversation. Instead, people are quick to bash you and just say like, oh, like you're just envious of his success. You're just envious. Like, bro, I'm just trying to analyze it. I'm just trying to, you know, have a conversation about it. But I just want to circle back to the, because I was asked this question and it kind of ties in with Jaden too, the creativity aspect, and you're getting into content creation now. Where do you think, because I've been thinking about this for at least a month now, where do you think creativity stems from? Like what's your source of creativity? Like what do you think, I don't know, like like where do you think your creativity comes from?
Like, I don't mean to give like a dry answer, but I mean, it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm that person that I'll spot a fly, and I hate flies. I'll spot a fly and be like, this can be something, you know? And that just depends on the way that you want to, I mean, if you're looking at it from a marketing standpoint, how do you want to market that fly? I'm looking at it from like a photography perspective. How do you want to picture that fly? How do you want to get an angle? You know, how do you want to record that fly? And it's just very, it is what you make it, right? So you have a lot of people who completely disagree with me. It's like, no, you need to have something. You need to have a vision. And while I agree with that, you have to have a vision to some things. You can, when you're talking about creativity, you're just, you know, you're in charge.
It just is. It just happens.
Yeah.
That's that's a dope ass way of looking at it. Like the fly. I'm definitely creating a Instagram highlight on that, by the way. That was just amazing. It's like, like I never thought about. Well, it's like you get anything, and then creativity kind of stems, because I was gonna say, like, for example, like you're a Christian, right?
Yeah.
So you can say, for example, if whether you're a Christian, Muslim, atheists, Satanists, whatever, you can say that it's, it comes from a higher power. It stems from a force beyond me. But looking at it from a more, I guess, humane perspective, just like you said, it's like depends on your goal. If it's marketing, if it's photography. So the fact that, the means to an end, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if it's for marketing, then you approach it from that angle. So it's all about perspective. It's all about angles. It's like, what angle do you want to approach something? And then you just let your creative juices flow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I love that fly analogy, dude. That shit's gonna stick with me. Yeah, fly.
And it really applies to anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said, anything and everything.
Yeah.
It is what you make it. You can make $1 million off of, if you really apply yourself, you could make $1 million off of this bottle cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you could just leave it there and not do anything about it.
Yeah.
It just depends on you.
Yeah, because recently, recently I listened to a podcast where they talked about Einstein's brain. So that's kind of what...
That was an interesting podcast, wasn't it?
That's kind of what catapulted the whole thought process of like creativity to me, because they were trying to understand where did his genius stem from. Like, they basically, once he died, someone stole his brain, right? So his brain was like stolen, just like a valuable art piece or something. Wow. And they only found out years later, and then the scientist that stole it, he was kind of embarrassed to, have been, of having people find out that he stole it, because at that point he still didn't find anything considerable, substantial information or findings, or here's the reason why. And so essentially he stole it to try to dissect his brain, break it down to parts, and he literally chopped it down into multiple tiny pieces, and he exported it and sent it off to the best scientists in the world to see if they can find anything from those pieces, from those fragments of his brain. And then nobody found anything considerable, anything outstanding, from the material of his brain, from the patterns of the whatever. And that just blew my mind. It's like, okay, so if it's not the brain, then what is it? Is it soul? But what's soul? What's consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
It just put me in that place where that's what I've been thinking about. I was like, dude, this shit's... But creativity, to me at least, so that's your interpretation of it. To me, creativity, I guess, I was thinking about this. Once I read the question, I was trying to figure it out. It comes from everything too, I feel like, and it comes mainly from, I don't know. See, it's a hard question, man.
It is.
It's a hard question to answer. Creativity to me stems from, I guess, pain. Pain in a sense where a form of expression.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a form of expression after you've undergone a certain amount of pain. So my relationship with pain is a very good one, in a sense where I kind of welcome it. I kind of welcome setbacks. I kind of welcome adversity, and obviously I had to learn to create and curate that relationship, because it wasn't always like that. So to me, for example, this podcast, I started it off, failed a few times with it, didn't really work. The first 10 episodes kind of worked out, because of technical issues and stuff. And then that motivated me, that pain of failure, of failing at something that I was so happy and so enthusiastic about, and so just invested and motivated, to have that fail just motivated me to pick it back up, and pick it back up even better. So
Mm-hmm.
then it motivated me to be creative. So it's so I'm gonna redefine the whole setup. I'm gonna order wallpapers from Amazon. I'm gonna buy a TV. I'm gonna try to figure out, how do I screen record? How do I connect it here? How do I make the experience more just more natural? How do I make the experience better? How do I connect better with people? So it just motivates me to like go down that rabbit hole and that domino effect of just personal developing and just cultivating that creative mindset. And the only reason why I brought up pain too is because I've noticed that you went through an injury recently, right?
Yes. Yeah. That was.
So how did that like affect you? Like how did you? Yeah.
So I mean, in my almost 19 years of life, that was probably the toughest experience I had to go through.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that started off simple and it just gradually got worse. But at the end, I found myself a better person. And so essentially what happened was, so I'm a college athlete, and through my track and field season, I started having pains on my right foot. And so I got it checked out, and it was a small little tumor, on my foot. Nothing bad.
Okay.
Benign. It was just the only thing that would stem from it if it got worse. It would just be like my tendons would like push out to one side, and it would just make it really painful. Okay. So I got it removed. Simple surgery, like an hour surgery. I was supposed to be good in like 2 weeks to go back to
track and field and
to track.
Yeah.
And I think like surgery was on March 14th. March 26th, I found out that I had a blood clot.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
In the same area of the tumor? Or?
No, it was on my right calf.
Oh, okay.
So a blood clot, I don't know like how much you know about that, but it's like very, 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 very
serious.
rare.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very serious.
Yeah.
But the reason why it's more serious because it's usually like in older people, right? Because it's like a circulation issue.
Yeah.
And essentially what happened is like after the surgery, like to this day, we still don't know what caused it, if something caused it. We don't know if I'm just like a more propense person to have it by like my genes or something, or if it's something that like was because of the anesthesia or whatever. Yeah. So essentially what happened was they told me like, you just have to stay completely still for like the next 3 weeks.
Jesus Christ.
And so that meant missing the rest of my season, right? Meant missing 3 weeks of classes. And it's not something that goes away like immediately. It takes about like 3 to 4 months to go away. But those 3 weeks I had to stay completely still because there was like a major risk of it traveling. And so once a blood clot, if it travels like up to your heart, to your lungs, that's where it becomes a problem. Jeez. And then that's where, it could have been really bad. So I guess the major thing that I felt during that whole process was literally like not just my life was literally taken away from me.
Yeah.
I was literally on a mattress. I guess like 19 out of 24 hours a day, just not being able to do anything.
And what would you do during those?
Oh, The Office.
The Office.
Yeah.
Michael Scott right there.
Yeah, right there.
President.
But yeah.
Sponsored by The Office. Yeah.
But it was like The Office, YouTube videos. I hate reading. I ended up reading a lot.
Wow.
But that's really it because I couldn't. And that's what shook me the most is that I have a very active lifestyle. I walk from my house to school, train every day, work out every day. And then that was literally just taken away, work every day. And so when you go from having this very active lifestyle, being in a completely different environment to just being on a bed for like 19 hours out of a 24-hour day is crazy.
Jesus, dude. And not only that, like not only from like the physical activeness perspective, but also from a purpose perspective. It's like you've been stripped from your purpose in life, and we're like so accustomed to like being just in motion and just always, just working towards your goals. And then all of a sudden you're stripped from the opportunity to even bring much value to the world, I guess, if you will, from like it's kind of that age old question too. It's like, people like working and having, I guess work kind of fuels your purpose. It's like work is a necessary thing, right? So a person to be fully happy, like happiness is found in your work. It's just about doing the right kind of work. So unhappiness is found in the wrong kind of work. That's why people that work at McDonald's are miserable, because there's no purpose there, you know. And then the fact that you've been stripped from your work and you've been stripped from purpose for like 3 weeks laying on the bed. Of course, you had the office, which is great.
Yeah.
But still, that's kind of... So how do you cope with that mentally? Like do you go through it, I guess, you know, relatively unhurt mentally, or did you have like any like repercussions mentally?
I didn't.
You didn't?
If anything, it just made my mentality a lot stronger.
Wow.
And that's because I got an overwhelming amount of support, like through it all. And that's because not everyone knew exactly what was going on. It was like my parents knew.
Okay.
And I shared it with like 2 or 3 friends. But then a lot of people like started to kind of notice like, what, this isn't normal. He had foot surgery and now he's like, he hasn't been around for like a month and a half. Yeah. Right. Because even after those 3 weeks, I was still very, you know, I was only able to like 2 weeks ago was when I got the clearance to go back to doing everything. So then that's where questions started to come from. And like when I started sharing it to like a more, a larger audience, like the overwhelming amount of support that came from, you know, people, like just really fueled me. And I guess my dad also had a lot to do with how he didn't let me get down because of it. Because he knew, like he saw it coming from a mile away when I got the news. He's like, he's probably going to be bummed out that he can't go back to finish his season. He's going to be bummed out that he can't be at, you know, at school. He's going to be bummed out that he can't do anything. And so like the first day he's like, you know, don't worry, like everything has a purpose. And he told me something very important that I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life, of course. He's like, try to take out as much as you can from this. What can you learn from this? It's not, of course, it's not something that's in my control. He's like, this isn't like, you didn't ask for this, but what can you get out from this? You know? That's and powerful. Then I started thinking. That's powerful. I was like, and you know, all through the 3 weeks of just being in bed, I was just thinking like, what does this mean? You know? And my dad's a pastor, right? So very, very religious person.
Faithful.
And like I am. And so praying's a huge part of our family. It's a huge part of my life as well. And that's when I started really, you know, taking the time out to really start going after it, you know? Really, you know, that's where I found a lot more about myself than I thought I would. So, you know, that's where I started having like some of these ideas, like we were talking about earlier, like where I had like an idea to start a company. I was like, because you just have so much time in yourself. Right? I mean, as much as I love the office, I wasn't going to be just stuck in the office. All the time, when I, you know, had like some more quiet time, you know, a lot of self-reflection went into it. So
that's great.
You know, I feel like I came out a much stronger person.
Better because of it.
Definitely.
Especially I guess the spending time alone part. I resonate so much with that because of just my belief in that need to like take a step back, you know, kind of isolate yourself a bit, like isolate yourself and look inwardly. You know, like, of course, you're going to, you know, watch The Office, just like you said. You're going to listen to podcasts, read books, even though you don't like reading books. But you're going to also get that chance and that opportunity to actually turn inwardly and just face yourself. And I feel like, for example, I say this because I went through this too. It's like, I feel like we all kind of have this fear of facing the person in the mirror sometimes. And it's not fear of like fear the way that I guess most people have defined it or how society views it. Just a fear of not being able to understand that person in the mirror. So it can get very deep in a sense where, you know, that's where most of compensation stems from. That's where most of everything in life stems from. It's just the insecurity and the lack of understanding of self. So meditation for me, for example, like every morning I'll wake up and I need to meditate for at least 20 minutes. Like I'll just sit in silence in my room And my room has like these two big windows that look outside, and there's like green grass, trees, birds chirping, whatever. So I'll just, have a setup on top of the bed, and then I'll just, crisscross out applesauce, the whole like position, and I'll just do breathing exercise. I'll just like close my eyes and just breathe, just focus on breathing, focus on my surroundings, on the noises, and being present. And then every time after that meditation session, I'll feel lifted. I'll feel just motivated. I'll feel, it's crazy because you spend time, it's just you and you. It's such a weird experience. And I always recommend everybody to check it out, try it. There's like various different apps, and, Headspace is an amazing one. But, and then your relationship with pain, which was one of the questions actually, is what it has to be. Yeah. And your dad is on the ball with the whole, like, what are you going to learn from it? Like that is what needs to be done, and not shy away from it, and not avoid it, and not try to hide from it. It's face it head on and say, hey, like, what can I learn from it? So what did you learn from it?
So I learned like a lot. I don't know if I can pinpoint something specific, but like, for example, my dad, I know that when he was telling me that, my dad's like my best friend. Yeah. He knows my weaknesses. He knows what I do wrong. He knows, what I do very right. He knows what I do well. He knows what I do, Yeah. So he also had, his, reasons for telling me that, because he knew that it can be something that I could come out stronger in some of the weaknesses I have. Right. And so, for example, I tend to have a very, how would I say it in English? Pavio curto.
Como?
Pavio curto. It's like
Pavio curto.
I explode for like little things.
Short temper.
I don't want to say that I have like a temper problem, because I don't.
It's like just flips the table. It's like,
it's not as bad, but it's like I'm not very patient.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
I guess that's like, I'm not patient at all.
Oh, okay.
These 3 months have made me one of the most patient people in the world.
Damn.
In certain things.
Okay.
In certain things. And I feel like I can just start applying some of that into other areas in my life. Wow. Because being deprived of, not doing the sport you love, of not being able to go out, enjoy, a night out, or enjoy some time with your family, it sucks, right? And you're just like itching to go back. Like, oh, when is it going to be over? But then I found out it's like, chill, I told myself, like everything in the right time. Everything's going to come with the right time. So that's something that I've really, something that I've worked on, and something that I found myself, just really becoming better at.
Yeah, patience, man. Patience is actually written on that board, I think. Or is it perseverance? Yeah, it's perseverance. But still, perseverance ties into patience, basically. And patience is, oh my God, patience is the most, because especially today, everything's fast food. If you want food, just drive somewhere, insert your card, or give money and you'll get food. It's like, it's so easy. It's fast food, fast clicks, fast likes, fast whatever, fast relationships, fast everything. And to teach yourself patience is going against everything that you like. It's you going against this huge tsunami of a wave that's society. It's like you just taking it head on and just taking a step back and just, whoa, like everything is in its time. And time, although it's something that we can't take for granted, we have to understand that sometimes we just need to let it do its thing. Like not try to force your hand on what it does and what it brings to the table. It's like, let it bring something to the table. Obviously, you'll do your part on bringing things to the table, but it's a mutual relationship.
Exactly.
So it's almost as if like I'm talking to time and I'm me, right? So I'll bring something to the table and you'll bring something too, but I'm not going to like rush you. The irony of this analogy is that you can't rush time to do things for you. And I've learned that for sure through the whole fiber thing. I mean, it's been over 3 years that I've been trying to like get this thing up and running, and you learn patience, you learn perseverance, you learn how to get punched in the face, you learn how to accept being punched in the face, You learn how to get your face mutilated, just reconfigured. That's how much you get punched and how much you get just hit. But you learn from that. And for example, the person I am today compared to the person I was 3 years ago, if you would, introduce both of them, they would not know who each other was. Like it's just two completely different people. And you also have to learn to like not, I guess, you create your best work from patience too. So because you went through that phase now as an athlete, as a student, as a prospective business owner, as everything, like just like you said, it applies to every aspect of your life because you went through that shortcoming or what was perceived as a shortcoming, as a fall, but that actually contributed to your gain in life. And yeah, dude, I'm just all about. Do you know Jocko Willink? No. Do you know David Goggins? No. Their
names aren't like strange though.
They've been on the Joe Rogan Experience. So if you're into like just pure bred forms of motivation, they're the two guys that I go to. It's like Jocko wrote that book called Extreme Ownership. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. David Goggins, I believe, is an ex-Navy SEAL as well. And they just do, like, these guys, they've managed to like cultivate this mindset where whenever you feel impatient, you just listen or just watch one of their videos or read their books or do whatever podcast, and you'll be like, whoa, like relax, like take a step back and just whatever. But with the whole track and field thing, what made you get into that? Because listening to you say how you are used to like walking everywhere, are used to like, being active and stuff. What do you think? Where do you think that comes from? From like why track and field and why not football? Why not, I don't know, soccer, basketball?
So, I mean, my path to becoming a track and field athlete is actually very, it resulted from an injury that I've had. Yeah.
See?
I feel like,
pain. This whole episode is just about pain, basically.
Everything in my life apparently is coming from injury.
Pain. Yeah.
But I've always played soccer, right? And I was a goalie, and if you look at me, not everyone will like look at me like, shit, he's a soccer player. I mean, I'm a pretty big guy, and so as a result, I mean, this is going back to like my sophomore year in high school, my freshman year in high school. I already had like a problem with my foot, right?
Okay.
And so
with
it got
the same foot?
Yeah, the same foot. And it got really bad going into my junior year of high school. And so this was right before his school year started, and I didn't even try out for varsity soccer.
Okay.
And as a result of that, I missed it, and I was in an honors history class over at Seton Hall Prep, where I went to high school.
Okay.
And I was failing the class. So I dropped down to a lower level. My first day of class, I meet the new teacher, and I'm coming up after his class. I'm going out to lunch, and he pulls me aside, and he's like, "You should do track and field." I was like, "What?"
I don't know where.
I was like, "I don't run. Do I look like a runner?"
Yeah.
I was like, during like fitness tests in high school for soccer, I always like find my way out of them
because it's just the running process.
Yeah, exactly. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you should be a thrower. You should be a thrower. You throw heavy objects for distance.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I started looking this up on online, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So he goes like, just come by and try it out. And so this was going into this was my junior year. And then I go out for practice, and I'm throwing the shot put. So the shot put's in high school, it's a 12-pound ball.
Oh, yeah, that you spin it?
That you spin or you glide, and then,
Okay.
You throw it for distance. It's like one of the first practices, like, where have you been, like, the past 2 years?
Where have you been all my life? Yeah.
So,
wow.
And it's something that just came naturally, and it's, turns out that I got a lot of looks from colleges. during my high school experience doing track and field. And, now I'm a college athlete.
And how does that process of like scouting work? Like, are you aware that a Rutgers scout is there, that a Columbia scout is there? Like, are you like, do you get that nudge on the shoulder of your coach saying, hey, perform your best today because so-and-so is in the stands?
There's a few different like ways that it happens. Like once you, like I don't want to sound like, cocky, but like once you know that you're a top athlete,
Prospect.
Not even a prospect, but like in the high school system, you know when you're pretty good.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And I knew I was pretty good.
Yeah.
And so, that once you get to those bigger meets, those bigger competitions, that there are going to be probably a few guys there, a few coaches.
Yeah.
And you also get letters too. You get letters from colleges.
Really? Just like randomly without you?
So they can't go directly to me.
Applying? Oh, okay.
They can't go directly to me. They have to go through either your counselor at high school or through your coach. So they get the letter and they give it to you, right? And so when a school's interested by that,
Yeah.
And so throughout my high school career, I probably got like upwards of like 20 letters.
Jesus.
Yeah. Varying from D1 to D3 sports schools. And that's where it ultimately, came to, I had to make my decision.
Yeah.
And it's actually very funny. I got a D1 offer from a school in California. And this is actually one of like my most, it's a weird story.
Yeah.
Because I was very inclined to take it. And now I'm not allowed to say the name of the school because they don't have a track and field program because they were planning to start one.
Oh.
And it never fell through. It fell through.
Oh, okay.
So, but it was a really good offer from a D1 school, and I had money on the table.
So, just explain quickly, like what does a D1, D2, D3 school mean?
So,
like,
the D1s, they're usually like the better schools, like schools that you see like people,
Ivy Leagues.
Not necessarily Ivy Leagues.
Yeah.
But
in the sports,
it's usually more like a money thing. Like how much investment does a school have?
Got it.
In their sports system, and so that's where you see like most players that make to the big leagues, to professionals, they come from D1 schools.
Got
right?
it.
So they have naturally better facilities. A lot of times you're better schools, but you also have very, very, very good schools with D3 programs. It's not like a knock to like the quality of the school. It's just really like more of an investment thing.
Infrastructure that they have for each athlete. Okay.
So essentially what happened is that I was very inclined to accept the offer. And now personally, I'm a mama's boy.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
we all kind of are.
Yeah. And I feel like that's also like a culture thing because in Brazil, I mean, you really only leave your house when you're married.
Yeah.
Right. Essentially.
That is so true. Yeah.
So I'm very like connected to my parents. I've always had a great relationship with both of them. And, deep inside, like I felt an inclination to take the offer, but I was like, and I was going to take it. So about like, I guess like a week before I made my final decision, the Rutgers Newark coach sends an email to my coach in high school. And she's like, would we be able to contact your athlete? And he was like, yeah. And so he forwarded me the email. Then I got in contact with them. And the coach, she was like, you want to come in for a visit? And I was like, yeah, sure, when? She's like, this Thursday. And this was like a Tuesday or something like that. I was like, all right, cool. I don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
And so I went on the visit, and like when you're somewhere and you can just see yourself there.
Yourself there, 100%. Yeah.
And it was like within like the first 2 minutes of the conversation, I was like, this is where I'm going.
Just felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but they never presented to me with anything like official. And like D3 schools, and Rutgers Newark is a D3 school. They can't give athletic scholarships, right? They can't do anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was literally like 5 minutes from my house.
Oh, so it was just.
And so I was like, this just all seems so right. It's like, I'm going to be close to my family. I'm going to be playing the sport I love.
Yeah. Just all connects.
And so I was like, I want to be here. And the coach was like, no, we're looking at you. And it's like, once you go on a visit, you know that they're pretty interested. But
of course.
But then at the end of the visit, the head coach, he's like, I want you here.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Me too.
I kind of want to be here too.
Damn.
So I go back to my coach in high school. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to Rutgers Newark.
Yeah. I've made my decision.
I've made my decision.
So your parents were probably very happy in finding out that you decided to stay at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Because at first, like, I can only imagine how they would have been feeling if you were on the other side of the coast, like on a different coast completely.
So this is the most, like, I guess I don't want to say sinister part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, she's also very religious. She told me after the fact that she was praying for a long time
Against
for me not to go to California, but she never told me that.
Wow.
Like, my parents have always been like so open to my decisions.
Yeah.
Make your own decisions. You choose your own path, and they've been great with it. They were like, it's like, Luis, just do what you feel is best for you, for your career, and God bless you.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool.
But
And so after the fact, she's like, the power of prayer. I was like, damn right.
Damn. No, but that's, again, everything just happens the way that it has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you getting that email and getting that invite just coincided with, you approaching the deadline for your decision, and then boom, it just all clicks.
Yeah.
What do you think that is of, like, you spoke about just walking somewhere and seeing yourself there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That happens very rarely, but when it does, it's just very powerful to a point where it makes you make that decision. It makes you make a life-changing decision, a potential life-changing decision. And I've had that happen many times and I've had the opposite happen too, where you walk in somewhere and you're like, I can't stay here any longer. It's like, it's just a weird feeling. Like, you can walk into a grocery store and then you just don't feel comfortable there. Like, there's this very overpowering feeling. It's like, I just need to get out of here. Like, I get this anxiety. It's not a panic attack. It's not anything like that. But it's just, you just feel the environment. It's so weird to me. And it's weird to me because, again, I don't know if this is necessarily a, what's the name? Conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any base on science for this, but essentially the idea of us all being, I guess, formed from the same atomic structures or whatever. Like, if you pin down every single thing around you and everything's kind of connected, right? Mm-hmm. So we're kind of like, we share certain traits and certain things with everything around us. And so maybe that's when, like, all of those atoms or whatever, like, they kind of resonate with each other, and then you just walk in somewhere and you're like, well, like, I feel this place, I feel this energy. So do you think it's energy? Do you think it's, what do you think that is, of, like, just being able to have that feeling? Where does that, like, what is that feeling? Like,
that's a tough
you,
one.
of course, because it's relative.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, and this goes back to me, how, like, a big Christian, I feel like it's God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've always spoke openly about that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a big believer in God knows what He's doing.
Yeah.
And He has His purpose for you.
Yeah.
And I've always been very, very. I get emotional, talking about it. Not emotional to the point where I'm gonna cry.
No,
but like,
of course, yeah.
It's very, because going back to, like, the injury situation.
Yeah.
Right. If I was at a D1 school, they would have been like, you're cut.
Yeah.
You can't play this season. You're cut.
You're no value to us.
Yeah, exactly. Because at that point, like, and I'm not, I don't know if that would have been the case.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you're just like a number.
Yeah.
You're just an asset.
Yeah.
Right. And so what if I had gone to California?
Yeah.
What if I was at a D1 school?
Yeah.
What if I had gotten my blood clot and something difficult, and they're just like, sorry, it's just how it is.
Yeah.
So I do feel like God has His purpose for me, and I feel like through all of this, He's like giving me, like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I like that, of, like, how you. Yeah, of just the fact that the idea of looking at things as a statistic, it's like, as just a mere number, right? And that ties into the whole like gym industry, for example, right? So let's just use gyms as an example. Most gyms that you sign up to, they look at you as a number. You're a number. You're a head count. So, like, oh, like how many members did we, were we able to sign up this month compared to last month and stuff? Oh, do this, lower the price. Of course, that's the business side of things, and that's the numbers side of things. And I don't know if you saw the story that I posted recently of Kanye West saying that he's not a numbers guy. Yeah. So that I resonated very heavily with that because, of course, you have to be knowledgeable. Like I have a bunch of business textbooks. I've done my fair share of like studying and just understanding the whole, I guess, spectrum and the whole realm of the business side of things. But there is much more value to be acquired, and not just acquired not in the connotation that society has nowadays of like acquire of like, oh, like what I'm gonna gain, but it's like acquire in general for everybody. So it's a mutual gain. And what I mean by that, I guess, is like, again, instead of looking at things from like a number standpoint and a statistic, once you humanize people and you get to understand people, and that's why I set a studio inside Fiber for the FiberCast, because I want to sit down with any member that's open to talk about or that's just down to sit down and just have a conversation on the show. I'm going to be having that person on, and that creates this, I guess, digital catalog of just human interactions of just like you'll be able to like walk into Fiber, and then let's say that I'm on episode 1,000 whatever. I've interviewed most of my like members. I know them. I know who my audience is. I know who my like I establish a connection with them. And then that's very important, because being a D1 school for you wasn't enough. Right? What was enough for you was having that, I guess, human interaction and that experience of like walking through the college and meeting the coach and the coach telling you that they wanted you there and just seeing potential in you and staying close to your family. So it's all human interactions. No matter how much you try to systemize people and reduce them to mere statistics and numbers, it's not going to work. Like, it'll work to a certain extent, but then you'll have someone who sees the counter tilt to that, which is what I'm trying to do with Fiber, is humanize people, like create something that is going to be like a form of an expression more than a business itself. So it's going to be an environment that you're going to want to be at, right? Like LA Fitness, I could care less about LA Fitness. Like there's no culture there. There's no interaction. You don't meet people. And then at Fiber, for example, you're working out, you're doing bicep curls on the machine, and there's a screen in front of you, just like this one hanging over you, and you see an episode that I did with Brittany, right? And then Brittany just opened up about her foot injury, that she had a foot injury at 9, or she had a blood clot at 9. And then she's just opening up about it and talking about how she had to, go through a similar experience. Then you resonate with her. You're like, holy shit, like, and let's say that you're attracted to her. That's a conversation starter, but it's a real one. So it stimulates people. It helps you be human. It's like, talk about real shit. Like, don't go up to her and just compliment her ass or whatever, or her squats or whatever. It's like, oh, like, just be like, hey, by the way, I just heard your FiberCast episode. I was just overhearing it, and just create a community, man. It's like, connect with people. And I've always been fascinated about the idea of just connecting, of just being present in the moment. Right? Like right now, the only reason there's like cameras here and stuff is because that's the way to project that and try to like stimulate people to do the same, right? Of
course.
But what I value the most out of everything, and I told you before this podcast, I don't really care about views or anything like that, like thumbnails of like controversial subjects like that. Let's talk about rape, abuse, whatever. Like we'll talk about that if it pops up.
Yeah.
If it's a realistic thing to talk about. I'm not here to like be like Logan Paul, like always like trying to do crazy shit to like keep people entertained. Like that's not my main goal. Entertainment is gonna be a byproduct. Views, byproduct. Everything's a byproduct of your greater purpose, I feel. And I feel like that's where you're at today. Like everything that you've done and endured and kind of just went through is a byproduct of your purpose in life. So even the pain is a byproduct,
Yeah,
a necessary byproduct. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing either, because the idea of bad and good is kind of
of course.
just kind of very, very subjective. But yeah, like that kind of got deep right there. It's like pain, but pain, yeah, pain is pain. I don't know, dude. Let me just put this. Hold on, guys. It's like to keep track. Yeah. So, how long do you think that was
What?
so far? Like, how long do you think that we've been talking?
I'm like a really bad time tracker, so.
How
I'd
long?
say like what, 45 minutes?
5 minutes. I think it's in. So we've been talking for like an hour and 10 minutes, right?
Oh wow.
So, just that. It's like, see, like this. How many times, other than sitting down with your mom, dad, family time, how many times have you been able to just sit down with a complete stranger? Stranger in a sense where we know each other from Instagram, right? Social media. But sit down with someone and just talk. Like how many times have you like had, you know what I mean? It's kind of like establishing that connection. Like it's very rare nowadays.
Oh yeah, and that's something that like I was just gonna say actually, what you want to build with like the whole fiber project, it's such a rarity nowadays. It's like people, it's just like you were saying, people don't care about people.
Yeah, no.
Care about numbers.
Don't
Care
give a
about
fuck.
what's making
Money.
making the money, what's being lucrative, what's not being lucrative.
Yeah.
And they don't care about that human aspect.
Yeah,
And so it's just like people, and that doesn't just go for businesses, it goes for people. Like, I don't know, like these people on Instagram, like all they care about is likes, numbers,
all they care about views.
views,
Yeah.
comments, whatever. And so, people are kind of, it's kind of sad to say. It's like people are like kind of helping their own demise in a sense,
100%.
because what's an extra like gonna do?
Or an extra $1,000 or whatever. And it's all about momentary gain, right? So there's momentary gain and there's long-term gain.
Yeah.
If you try to focus on momentary gains, your long-term value pivots, it's
Definitely.
it's going to decline. Like if all you're focused on is like, oh, like I'm going to open this and this to make money, you've already failed, because that's not going to be a realistic thing. So it has to be like founded on something firm, a firm foundation, otherwise your building's going to crumble no matter how tall it gets. Over time it's just going to diminish. And it's just adding that people thing. And this kind of touches on the whole on the question that you got about financial stability, right?
Yeah.
Like what that means or what you should aspire. And my opinion on that is just, I don't aspire to accumulate or flaunt wealth or do anything along those lines. Like I've been through a phase where I kind of had to humble myself ego-wise, right? So once you start, making decent amount of money, you start seeing a decent amount of cash, your first inclination is to prove to the world or to show the world that you have that. So you start purchasing and making, just, I guess, not managing it correctly.
Yeah.
And then it takes it takes a process to happen for you to be able to humble yourself. So to me, it was just through knowledge. It was just through experience, being punched in the face, reading books. Like this one's called Ego is the Enemy. So it's kind of just taming your ego. So essentially my definition of financial stability, I guess, with this whole fiber project, because I've been asked this before, is to just be comfortable enough where I can, help the people I want to help. Doesn't necessarily have to be like strictly monetary purposes. It could be like helping them like opportunity wise and just giving them a platform, a voice, whatever it may be, like simple stuff. I don't know. But being able to help the people I want to help, it would be to be able to like walk into any place and not have to worry about money. So basically not having to worry about money. So if I want to like
Eat at a good restaurant.
Restaurant, I won't worry about the check, and if I want to take people with me, I'll be like, don't worry about it. Just order whatever you want. And not have to worry about it. So if I want to buy a car, just walk in, just pick the one I like. That's it. So like that's like financial stability to me, but I'm not obsessed with money. I'm not like that person that's like, oh, I'm gonna grind today, post it on Instagram, flaunt, to get attention of, females who I guess find that attractive or who, want the money. And then, because there's a lot of that nowadays.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But that is my definition. It's just being comfortable, and not being a prisoner of money. It's like, don't be a slave to money.
Yeah.
Just be able to make it work for you, dude. Like that's, but what's your opinion on?
I mean,
or your goal, I guess.
Opinion, you said it best. I mean, being comfortable, I guess, is what I would like to achieve as well. And it's, money is just an object to me.
Yeah.
It's not something that I strive like to have like, oh, I want to be rich. I want to, drive 1,000 cars. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to be in a position where in the future, when I can build my family, I can give them stability as well. I can put my son in a good school or my daughter, whatever it may be.
Yep.
I can give my family a good life.
A comfortable life.
A comfortable life, and that's not necessarily a mansion and, 3 Lamborghinis in your garage.
It could be.
It could be.
But again, it should be a byproduct. It's not your main objective. It's not
exactly.
And that ties into like, what's your definition of success? Because to me, it's the journey. It's just like the journey. There is no destination to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody has that idealized idea because of Hollywood and what we've been force fed, every single day, is that, that mansion on the hills, Lamborghinis, having a perfect, trophy wife or whatever. That's all an illusion. Like to me, it's a journey. So in my head, and also it's a mindset. It's a state of mind. So again, not trying to sound, I guess, cocky or anything like that, but I consider myself already successful because my definition of success is broken down into like different levels. So there's a momentary definition of success. There's a long-term definition of success. And my momentary or short-term version is being better than the person I was yesterday. Like that's my main objective. Every morning I wake up and I just strive to do something better than I did yesterday. So if I read an extra 20 pages of something, if I'm able to do something that furthers my pathway in this life, and I do just a little subtle thing better, that to me is already something like a successful day.
Yeah.
So that kind of not humanizes, but makes it more accessible, and it motivates you more. So if you define success as Bugattis, Lamborghinis, then you're setting yourself up to fail because you'll probably never. You could achieve it. I'm not saying that, but let's be realistic. Like how many people actually become like millionaires per se, right? So it's kind of. But the few that do, I do believe that they manage to achieve that through a insane level of just passion and perseverance and just striving for more.
And something that I've learned to appreciate as well is like the journey, I guess. Like you were saying, like what is success? It's the journey. And I don't only apply that to success, but I always, I love to apply that to knowledge. I mean, I feel like we're never gonna stop. Like till the day we die, we're never gonna stop learning, right? But I feel like what's just as important, if not more, is like how you're learning, is the process by which you're coming to, the ultimate knowledge that you have, right? Because I feel like that's what's really going to shape your character. It's really what's going to shape you and your view of, whatever happened.
So it's not only accumulating knowledge, but it's the value of each lesson too, right? So it's the value of the knowledge that you've accumulated. That's, to get from point A to point B, like if it's a question, for example, right? If you want to know, if like there's a jar over there, how many marbles are in that jar? It's like you want to achieve that. You want to know. Someone could just tell you that, and you're gonna know. Or you can get to that jar, you can spill all of them out. Some might fall on the floor. Some might roll over. You might never find them again. You might have a wrong answer at the end. But the process of you actually having to go there, spill them all out, pick the ones you left behind, count them all out one by one, you might learn something else, through that whole process. So it's basically the effort.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the effort ties into the journey, right? So that's yeah. You're really good with analogies, dude. Like first it was the fly, which fascinated me, and I'm gonna like think about that for some time. And now, yeah, the jar thing, yeah. It's like you can get the easy answer. You can get a summary of each book right here of every book on the planet and just read the main summary and the main topics. But there's like value of you like going through a certain mental space, a certain state of mind, and then you seeking that book, seeking that knowledge, and that knowledge becomes more valuable because you put in the effort and you need it. Yeah, that's powerful.
One of the few books I've actually read in my life. It's Ronda Rousey's book. I think it's like an autobiography. Yeah. She touches a lot on that. And it's not directly, she's saying like, this is what I learned, and the process by which I learned this makes me a better person. You kind of just get that from whatever she's writing, you know? And so that's one of like the best books I've read.
Wow.
And I'm not like a huge Ronda Rousey fan either.
Yeah.
But
but that's, again, like that's right there. The fact that you're not even a fan of hers, maybe you're not even remotely interested in what she does, for example, right? Like, let's say that you're just a person that doesn't really care, and she still manages to influence you. Like, she still manages to have that powerful impact on your life. And that, to me, represents the whole slogan behind this podcast. It's for outliers by outliers. Everybody has a story worth telling because everybody is an outlier in their own right. And that results in my other belief, strong belief, that everybody has the power to influence. So it's like you telling your story right now, you're influencing someone out there. Like, you're influencing me right now, right? But I'm only one of the people. And then that's why cameras are necessary, because you telling your story, someone watching this will be like, holy shit, that fly analogy was dope. Or holy shit, I went through the similar clot problem, even though it's rare. And then you find someone that actually, resonates with that. And that, to me, is just the sheer power of just the human, I guess, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. It's the impact that you have on other people. And that's just finishing off the whole financial stability thing. And that ties in with my definition of success is legacy. It's like, what's the impact?
Yeah.
What are people going to talk about during your funeral? What are people won't talk about your Mercedes or how your Mercedes was the latest model or how your house had 15 bathrooms. Like, nobody's going to talk about that at your funeral, bro. Like, they're going to talk about who you were. If you were a shitty person, nobody's going to go to your funeral. So nobody's going to be talking about you at all. Even if you were a shitty person, just like Steve Jobs is notorious for the way that he, operated. He did what he did, and he managed to create what he created. But he was a shitty person. He wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I'm gonna pull this up. I don't know if this is real. A lot of people speculated that this may be bullshit, and that this is just like that's just like some random people conjured up. But basically, it's his deathbed last speech. Death speech. Also, if you feel the urge to like go to the bathroom or want to take a break, just let me know.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, good.
I might just have to steal another water.
No, for sure. Just grab another one.
Just water.
Just water. Fact check. So people say did not leave behind a deathbed warning about. Okay, he did not. So just a quick disclaimer. So this is probably not true, but it's still powerful, and it also ties into like what he represented as a human being. So I just want to like quickly read this because I do think that it's powerful. I do think that a lot of people can learn from it. Just let me find it real quickly. All right. So I actually wear glasses, for those of you who don't know, and I'm blind as a fucking bat. I can't see shit. So I'm actually putting my glasses on to read this. But basically, all right. So it says, I reached the pinnacle of success in the business world. In others' eyes, my life is an epitome of success. However, aside from work, I have little joy. In the end, wealth is only a fact of life that I am accustomed to. At this moment, lying on the sick bed and recalling my whole life, I realized that all the recognition and wealth that I took so much pride in have paled and become meaningless in the face of impending death. In the darkness, I look at the green lights from the life-supporting machines and hear the humming mechanical sounds. I can feel the breath of God, of death, drawing closer. Now I know when we have accumulated sufficient wealth to last our lifetime, we should pursue other matters that are unrelated to wealth. Should be something that is more important, perhaps relationships, perhaps art, perhaps a dream from younger days. Non-stop pursuing of wealth will only turn a person into a twisted being, just like me. God gave us the senses to let us feel the love in everyone's heart, not the illusions brought about by wealth. The wealth I have won in my life I cannot bring with me. What I can bring is the only memories precipitated by love. That's the true riches which will follow you, accompany you, giving you strength and light to go on. Love can travel 1,000 miles. Life has no limit. Go where you want to go. Reach the height you want to reach. It is all in your heart and in your hands. What is the most expensive bed in the world? Sick bed. You can employ someone to drive the car for you, make money for you, but you cannot have someone to bear the sickness for you. Material things lost can be found, but there is one thing that can never be found when it is lost, and that is life. When a person goes into the operating room, he will realize that there is one book that he has yet to finish reading, the book of a healthy life. Whichever stage in life we are at right now, with time, we will face the day when the curtain comes down. Treasure love for your family, love for your spouses, love for your friends. Treat yourself well, cherish others.
Wow.
So even though that's probably conjured up, and it most likely is, it's still very powerful to me.
Yeah,
like that's one of my favorite, I guess, quotes or essays. It's just, and just like he broke it down very eloquently. The one thing that we all share, despite all of like social hierarchy and division of class, separation of class, wealth, the one thing that we share is death.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's something that you and Bill Gates will share. It's an experience that both of you will share together. Yours may be, I guess, induced in a different fashion. You know, like you can die differently from the way that he'll die. But that end point is always the same.
You're still dead.
And it's both the beginning and the end are very similar to everybody. Like everybody experiences being born, right? It's a process that everybody goes through. Some people go through it differently. Some people come out, without a leg or with like limbs missing or whatever, but they're still given life. And then life flows through your veins. It flows through your heart. It flows through your soul. And then everybody's stripped away from everything they've been given in a similar fashion. So it's a shared experience. And that just always fascinated me because it's through, for example, if you notice this, a group of people will bond more when all of them share an experience that derives from adversity, right?
Yeah.
So a team that loses a lot is more powerful than a team that's always winning because they have a reason and a motive to be powerful. Like they have a reason to put in extra effort. And that bonding happens not in spite of adversity, but because of it. You know what I mean? And to me, it's just like, what's your opinion on death? Like, what do you think? Because death is one of a few things that I think about a lot. And I always emphasize this. I don't think about it in like a suicidal way. It's just conceptual way. It's like, what does it mean? Like, what do you think it means to you? Like, what, not necessarily, like, it could be like, what do you think happens after you die? And what do you think death represents? What do you think it is? What do you think when you hear the word death? I don't know.
So, I mean, my view on death is, I don't want to say basic, because I believe that there is life after death. I'm a big believer in that. And but death in and of itself, it's like, I guess it's just the end of a cycle. I don't really read much into it because I've come to grips with the fact that at one point I'm going to die, right? Yeah. And death is not something that scares me. you know, because like I said, I'm a big believer in it's like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So if I die today, if I die tomorrow, if I die in a year, 10 years, 20 years, you know, that to me is like relative because everyone's going to die.
Yeah.
Right. And so if it's, you know,
Yeah.
if it's my time, it's my time.
Yeah.
But, you know, looking at it from the outside, that's how I look at death, you know, personally, as if it's going to happen to me. But then, you know, you lose someone that's close to you.
It's a whole different
It's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Then you start questioning, like, oh my God, it's like, it wasn't their time. Like, it wasn't this. Something that hit me hard was a few years back with the Chapecoense air accident.
Oh yeah, with the team of soccer players that
they were going like,
and
it's just very strange. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, very like
it was abrupt.
Innocent lives.
Yeah.
Just nobody deserved that. Yeah.
And it's like it's
and
so weird.
So, like you say, life after death, right? But like, what image? Like, if you were to paint me a picture on a canvas of like what happens after death, what would your painting look like?
Like immediately after that?
Is time important after death? Like immediately after, like do you think that time is still a thing once you die? Because yeah, like immediately after death, but is there an immediately after death?
So I don't think there's like a time aspect of like, you know.
Yeah, like 5 years, like 5
Exactly.
years after death, and you know,
I don't
you're
think
5 years old.
But I feel like there will be stages like after you die,
Okay.
and that's my belief, rooting from the fact that I am a Christian and that
Religion, of course,
you know,
yeah.
And it's like my belief is that right after you die, your soul goes to God, and then God, you know, that's like your judgment, right?
Yeah.
He'll judge you on what you have done on earth.
It's called purgatory.
No, the purgatory is more of like
Is when you're already in hell, kind of, right? Or
so that's more of like a Catholic belief, like a Roman Catholic belief.
Okay.
And I'm a Protestant.
Okay.
So
okay.
I don't believe in purgatory.
Purgatory
is like that place where like it's like a kind of like a waiting room, I guess.
Yeah.
So what I believe is like you die and you go you're in front of God, and essentially like he plays you like a huge movie screen of like your whole life. And he's like, this is what you did wrong, blah blah blah, and so this is my reasoning. And then that's where he decides like if you're like saved, if you go to heaven or hell, you know. That's my vision. And then after that, that's when you enter into
either or.
Either or.
Okay. So talking to God, how does he or she, or like what comes to your mind when you hear the word God? Like, is it an energy? Is it a person? Is it, because Western society, like every religion has their own interpretation of like that force and energy, right? So what's your, again, you're given a canvas to paint God. What would you paint?
I don't think I'd paint anything.
Yeah.
It's like weird. And I love how like when you're reading the Bible, I feel like God's like intentionally like vague about who he is.
Yeah.
It's like he's like in the Bible there's stuff like
be anything.
I am the one who is. Like what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I guess it's up to each person to kind
interpretation.
Of like, interpret like who is God to them.
Yeah.
Right? And so in my opinion it's like God just is.
Yeah.
Right? So if anything, he's a force.
Yeah.
Right? I don't picture God as being like someone like me.
White bearded guy.
White bearded guy.
Family Guy always portrays. Yeah, exactly. For like Family Guy that's like sniping you from heaven.
Or Morgan Freeman. Who knows?
Or Morgan Freeman. Yeah. It really is.
But yeah, so I mean.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't really picture God as a person.
Yeah. So again, just so I kind of just put this out there, I don't consider myself an atheist per se, because atheist is a person that refuses the acceptance of there being more than what is, right? So I'm not that. I do believe that there is a force, just like you said, like it's not necessarily like I don't pin it down to like I haven't at least yet, but that can change because I do believe, that things are always constantly changing, right? So let's say that next year I could be a Buddhist or I could be whatever, Christian, Catholic, whatever. But I do believe that there is like an energy out there and it speaks to you, right? It speaks to you. You get signs, you get quote unquote miracles, and you get all of these manifestations of something that you can't explain. And so, for example, a friend of mine, she's really into what's it called numerology, where it kind of ties into the whole like horoscope stuff, which I have my conservative opinion on that. It's like
same way.
like how really. But we'll get into that in a bit. But basically, numerology is, I don't know. I've always been fascinated about the idea of just numbers, right? Like the irony of this is that similar to you, like I've never been good at math. I hate math. I've never been good at physics or whatever. I've never been good with numbers. I'm not a numbers guy, just like Kanye said as well. But the idea of like numbers. So I do think that when like things synchronize at the right time, everything kind of clicks at certain moments. So for example, if I'm going through a moment of extreme discovery, of self-discovery, or I have like this moment where I just have this revealing and I'm just like, holy shit, like how did I not think of this? Or this is the solution I was looking for. Occasionally I'll just look at my phone and then I'll see like repeated numbers. I'll see like 555 or like 444. So like these small little signs to me, in a weird way, it's hard for me to even, I guess, put this in words, but it's just this small, like this energy, this weird thing that I can't really explain, that sometimes like during my best moments and moments of just solution or when I'm like looking and searching and asking for solutions, I find them, and then it's kind of as if the whole universe is like talking to me or some shit. It's weird, but again, it ties back to the whole energy thing. It's like you feel it, like you, and then God saying that he simply is. He's in like everything, and he's everywhere and nowhere at the same time, right? Because you don't see God, but you can feel him, him, her, and we resort to like labels like him or her, like God's a woman, God's got, black, white, yellow, whatever. But it's just understanding that he's an energy. And again, just tying into the whole physics thing real quick. I don't know if you know this, but 2/3 of the universe is made up of, let me just Google this real quick.
Is it dark energy?
Yeah, it's dark energy. And we don't even know what the fuck dark energy is.
Yeah.
So that's us labeling something. Again, it's like, dark energy. So, it's... That's why I told you, like, I don't consider myself, like, I don't like labels, because labels kind of limit your movement. They kind of make you a prisoner of that connotation. It's like, oh, like, you're this now, right? And you don't get that flexibility. So I think that we label things that we don't really understand, as opposed to putting in time and effort and energy into like understanding it. So, for example, people who are like racist people, like they'll look at people from different ethnicity and skin color, and they'll just brush them off as being inferior because they're different. So it's always like fear of what's different. It's like, oh, like they're different people, so they're evil, they're bad, they're inferior. And I'm just not like that. So that's why I respect, and I'm always like extremely respectful to like hear other people. Like if you're a Christian, if I sit down with a Buddhist or whatever, like I like understanding, because I feel like we're both sharing this experience of mutual pursuit of higher understanding of just life. So your interpretation is yours, and it's founded on your upbringing, on your environment. It's cultivated, formed, molded by your experiences, and I have mine the same way. So then us sharing this and having a conversation about it it's something that everybody should aspire to do. Rather than, you know, me being like, let's say I came out right now and said I'm a Satanist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not, by the way. I'm just using that as an extreme anchor. Like, I come from a very religious household, so like my mom is extremely religious, Catholic. I think they're Catholic. Yeah, just like Catholic, but she doesn't go to like church or anything. Like, she has a firm faith in God.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked her that question. It's like, what is God to you? And then she said, well, she kind of said the same thing you said. She said, like, he simply is. Like, he's an energy. He's a force. Like, I don't know what God is. But she believes in it. And so it's faith. It's just founded on faith. It's like we share faith. Like, we want faith.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the most important parts, at least in Christianity, is faith.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's what really gets like people. It's like, gets the people going. Like, I don't want to sound like
No. Yeah.
But it's like a lot of people, they don't have anything else. You know, it's like faith in something.
Yeah.
Faith in something, like, just really.
Yeah.
It really ends up, you know.
Yeah. That's exactly it. It's like faith, you know, like if you don't have, that's why I said I respect every religion, even like I'll have a dialogue with a Satanist. You know, I'll have a dialogue with him. It's just that once you get past that religious barrier, you find out who that person is, right? You find out who that person, like, what their core values are underneath all that, you know, religious aspect of just being. But all of that is predicated on the need for faith. So if you don't have faith, let's say that you just, I don't know, like, just like you said, some people don't have anything.
Yeah.
So the minimum thing that they can have is the faith and belief that things will be better, or that things will, after this lifetime, get better, right?
Yeah.
And I think faith is such a powerful thing. Like, if you manage to cultivate that mindset of faith, like, you had faith that you would recover, and your dad being a pastor, that probably contributed and expedited the whole process. Because if your dad was a guy who, I don't know, just was miserable all the time, or just had a 9-to-5 job that he hated, or just had or I don't know, like you could have been given a different dad completely, and that situation could have turned out differently. So if you had like an unmotivating dad that didn't support you at all, you'd say, like, see, like, that's why you shouldn't fucking do it, because you're gonna get hurt, and you should just quit, you know. And then you would start doubting yourself, and
the funny thing about that is, like, a lot of people, they'll come up to me and be like, well, Luis, you're just religious because your dad's a pastor. And then I'll be like, no. And then that's where I start, you know, explaining. Because it's like, my dad, he's a pastor. Yeah, he's a very religious person. Yeah, he brought me up with that. Yeah. But ultimately, like, when I started understanding who I am, what the world is, he ultimately just left that up to me. He never pressed anything on me. That's good. You know? Yeah. And that's with everything. It's just like what I was talking about, my college decision, for example. Yeah. They were never the people to be like, you have to do it this way. Yeah. It has to be that way. You know? So it's something that I just, like, personally came to grips with. And, like, being brought up in a religious household and seeing the day-to-day in a, you know, a religious environment, especially in the church, I saw a lot of the things that are wrong. A lot of things that are, like, very wrong with the church. A lot of things that are very wrong with religion in and of itself. I saw a lot of the things that are great about it. You know, I've had my experiences with God. I've had my experiences with others, you know. Yeah. And so I was able to get, you know, both sides of the story. Yeah.
So you acquired perspectives.
Yeah, definitely.
In an environment that allowed that access to information, or that free flow of just consciousness. It's like, see, but that's powerful right there, because again, it comes from, okay, so let's look at upbringing or environment, but from a moral and just structural standpoint. So let's not throw in ideology per se, right? So your parents instilled in you this very powerful just mindset and just way of just approaching life. And then aside from that, so first they instill that first, right? So that's the first thing that came about. And then later they just, said, hey, and by the way, this household is a Christian household, right? And your dad's a pastor, whatever. And that influences, yes, but it's not like limiting and crippling you in your pursuit of understanding of self. So that's very important because you said that it's your definition of God. It's your relationship with him, her, with it, right? I think that's the right term, right? It.
I always say him.
Him, yeah.
But I feel like that's just like
because it's like
an instinctual thing,
masculine energy type of thing, right? Like it's like Father, God, and then Mother Nature. It's like kind of like,
And I mean, the thing with my dad and my family, it goes also back to, I think we were talking a little bit about it before the podcast. A lot of people will go up to me, like especially in college, like people who smoke, people who do drugs, or people who do like illicit activities. A lot of them are like, oh, the only reason why you don't do it is because your dad's a pastor and you're like some Puritan person. It's like, I mean,
I get that.
I make my decisions for myself,
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And that's something that frustrated me a lot when I was a kid, Yeah. Up until when I was like 12 years old, I was one of like the worst kids.
Really?
In like church.
Oh, really?
I was always the best kid in school.
Okay.
I drove like my dad wild.
Crazy.
When I was in church. Like Sunday mornings was like what he least looked forward to during
because
the
of
week.
you.
Because of me. Because I
on
also
the Lord's Day.
Yeah, I carried a chip on my shoulder for some reason. Like I was a pastor's kid, so and with that, I don't want to sound like a cliche. I was like, with great power comes great responsibility.
Great power. But it's literally that,
But within, like, when you're in the church, like, when you're the pastor's kid, all eyes are on you.
Yeah.
Anything, like, any little trip up, people are going to be like, oh, the pastor's kid did that.
Shit.
Yeah.
It's
like, I can't even, like, I have to be very careful with, like, sometimes, like, what I post.
Yeah.
And it's not me trying to, like, portray something that I'm not.
Or please people.
It's like, that's not my, it's not what I'm doing it for. But it's like, I also have to think about my family.
Yeah.
A lot. It's like anything draws attention.
Negative attention to it.
Yeah. And it's like anything, like I'm under so much scrutiny because of me being the pastor's kid. And so, and it's not something that like, I don't like, I am who I am.
It just is too.
It's also something that just is.
Yeah.
So, and I've learned to deal with it better.
Wow.
Within the last couple of years. But it's definitely something that,
I didn't even think about like looking at it from that perspective of like you having to set an example, a standard, right? Living up to a certain standard. So it's similar to, let's say, a person that is brought up in a very military-centric environment. So your dad is a sergeant, commander, whatever, chief of the army, and you have standards to uphold. And that, because like if you look, I think I read this up on somewhere, either a book or article. It's just that, for example, the tendency would be for you to kind of come out of that situation, of that circumstance, being a victim of it, and kind of just succumbing to, for example, just like your friend said, let's say that, again, this is perfect because it just all makes sense to me. It's just like your friend saying like, oh, like you don't use drugs because your dad's a pastor, right? If you didn't have the moral standards and the firm foundations that your family's instilled in you from when you were born to now, you would easily say, yeah, you're right. You know what? Fuck my dad. Fuck my mom. Fuck my family. Screw them. I'm going to revolt against this system.
And that's what ends up happening to a lot of people.
That's what happens to most people. And it's not just like religious households. It's military households. It's famous people, because you feel like there's that imposing shadow constantly, like incessantly following you. It's your dad's shadow, and then you don't feel free. And then you have to like resort to an extreme form of expression. And that extreme form of expression is drugs, is violence, is stealing, is doing bad things. Because you're trying to like break everything and anything, all of those chains that you feel, which in your case you didn't feel because you felt free. Yeah. And you were given that leeway to just follow and traverse and just find your own path. But that's what happens to most kids, is that they just become train wrecks. Then you hear about, like the pastor's kid is, almost overdosed again.
Yeah.
Like, the pastor's daughter is a whore, whatever, like it's because of that standard. It's constantly like being viewed and being expected something from.
I mean, I've lost count of how many like pastors' kids that I've known personally, and some that I've just heard about, or that my dad has had like a connection with. Like how many of them are either dead in like serious shit, like they're in, they just took a path in their life where they're completely lost, or some of them that like on Sunday morning they're there and they're like all dressed up, but like on weekdays they're just crazy. And then a little bit of that is also like, who are you to yourself? It's like I live my wife. I live my wife.
I love my wife too.
I live my life. Love my wife too. I live my life the way that, by my moral code. I don't do certain things because I don't feel they're right. It's not because someone indoctrinated me that it's wrong. There are a lot of things that I think are wrong that people may think is right. A lot of things that I think are right, and a lot of things that people think are wrong. So it's very, it's a very, to some people it can be a very touchy subject.
Yeah.
I've always been open about it though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change who I am just to please others.
It's it's fascinating, and I appreciate you being like open with it, because I do feel like there's a lot of value to be gained from that experience. It's like it's just allowing creative freedom in terms of thought process. So it's a it's a creative, thoughtful experience for your kids. So it's not instilling in them and imposing your moral beliefs, your ethics, your codes, values. Of course, you're going to present them to them. So there's a difference between imposing something and presenting it.
Yeah, that's any parent too. Right?
Any parent, yeah. So that's parenting. Like the best parents are the ones that allow their child creative room and space, right? Of course, there's also a need for establishing and help in establishing a firm foundation, and that's where they should focus and double down in. And that's where most kids nowadays with their parents, like especially very wealthy families, they have a very big disconnect with their kids and their relationship, because all they care about is accumulating wealth and being richer than the neighbor and getting the newest version of the Porsche because the neighbor got the new 911, so you have to work overtime at the office to get the new Lamborghini, whatever. And it's always like focusing on outward and forgetting about the inward relationship. And that's why you have all these kids doped up on fucking drugs and shit, and just all like little Anthony can't focus in class, and then you take Anthony to the doctor or the school nurse and they say, oh, you should get him on Adderall or like Ritalin or something like that. But all of that, basically what I'm trying to say with all of this is you can stem everything from just the way that the parent chooses to present information to the child.
Yeah.
So you can choose to give that child, present to them the information, or you can choose to just tell them the information the way that you think it should be presented. Yeah. So like it's very, very difficult. It's very, very hard for you to find that right balance. Again, balance. So it's all about balance. It's all about, for example, with my kids, my mom was always very strict, right? Growing up, like she was the type of parent that, she comes from a very religious, my grandmother was very religious. She still is, just a very religious family in general. And so it was always like kind of like very strict, to a point where when I was, starting to experiment with the idea of in Brazil going out to clubs and everything, I turned 18. So in Brazil, you're allowed to drink and go into clubs at 18. And I was starting to like experiment with that privilege or that new phase of life, what she did, and I don't like fault her for it. Like I'm not here to like say that she did anything wrong. She did what she did because of her circumstance, and just how she was brought up and what she believed in. But she kind of like tried to limit me as much as possible and kind of prohibit every and any act, like, oh, like you shouldn't drink or whatever, like, oh, like you shouldn't no, you can't go out to clubs, or you can't do this or that or that. So she wouldn't give me the opportunity to like experiment. And so what I did kind of was I revolted, and I went through a phase where I was just like going, and then me and her, like, we clashed various times, like not physically, but like, arguments and stuff.
Yeah.
And it creates a very toxic environment until she finally realized and came to the conclusion that she needs to let go of the leash, kind of, and she needs to of the rope, and she needs to just give me space and time. And the person that kind of convinced her was my dad, and they both of them are divorced, but I have a very good relationship with my dad, and he has a good relationship with my mom, so we're all friends. And then he kind of stepped in and said, hey, like, you have to understand that it's a process, it's part of his life, he's experimenting, so if you limit, I'm just going to do it 10 times over. So with my kids, it's going to be like, for example, if they're curious about something, I'm going to be the first one to supply them with the information that they need, rather than them resorting to friends, internet, school. It's like, oh, like, what's weed? And then someone tells them, oh, it's the best thing ever, man, just try it. I'm just going to present to them objective as possible and say, hey, this is weed. This is what weed is. It's illegal in our state. These are the benefits. These are the cons. These are the pros, cons. Same thing for everything. Crack, any drug, that any curiosity that emerges is like that just pops up. I'll be the first to step in and give that, valuable information.
That's essentially what my dad did with me.
Really?
Like it was like that with sex, like that with drugs, friends. It was with like essentially that with everything. And I'm very thankful for it, And so you saying that is, I draw a connection to it, and I feel like, of course I'm going to do things differently from my parents, not like everything differently. But that is one of the strong points that they had bringing me up,
It makes all the difference, dude. It really does. And again, it's just mind-blowing to me in a very, very good way how, even though your dad's a pastor, like, he's he morally, like he gives you that freedom, and freedom for just accumulating information and just everything like that makes all the difference, and not being indoctrinated per se, like not being forced. You could be a very prolific person, a very religious person, like that's your choice though. Like, I respect it more because it came from your, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, like nowadays, for example, it's like I go to church every Sunday, right? And a lot of weekdays I also go to church. Yeah. But if I just stop going to church, like, my dad's not gonna, like, he's not gonna, he might ask, like, hey, why'd you stop? But he's not gonna be like, you have to be in there. And that stopped a long time. Like, while I was still a kid, I had to go with him every Sunday because, I'm a minor. I can't stay home alone, can't do that.
Stay home and just burn the house down.
And knowing me as a kid, I definitely would burn the house down.
Oh, me too. I've always been a fucking little fucking devil.
But nowadays it's like, it's my decision. I go to church every Sunday because I want to, because I feel good there. I'm very heavily involved in my church as well. Okay. And it's, something that I like to do. I work with, kids at my church, so it's something that I like. And I don't know if that'll change in the future. I don't think it will, because I'm very adamant on my beliefs. And, it's somewhere where I like to be. Yeah. And so that was never, like, he never pressured me to do anything. That's something that I appreciate. That's probably something that I'm going to carry with my kids as well.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself in, like, are you the type of person that either, like, how do I say this? Because I know people who plan every single thing. Like, they're the type of people that if you ask them, like, where are you going to be in 5 years from now? Like, they'll take out a huge ass book with, like, step-by-step things of, like, what they want to do and accomplish. Yeah. Or are you more of, like, the free flow, or are you somewhere in between? Like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Like, or if you even see yourself at all? Like,
I really don't, to be honest. I like to just kind of go with the flow. Yeah. Kind of just go, take, tomorrow. I don't want to see tomorrow because I'll plan ahead, for the short term, right? I know that tomorrow I'm going to be at work.
For this podcast.
Exactly. I plan to be at work tomorrow. Yeah. I plan to be at work on Saturday. But, like, in 5 years, I want to be in a good position. That's, like, all I can say, Yeah. I want to be in a position where I'm healthy, and hopefully I'll be graduating college. But if I'm not,
It's okay too.
It's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not in a rush to get anywhere.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and that's also something that I learned with my patience. You know, I'm really just taking step by step.
yeah.
Once that next step comes, then you look at what's ahead and then you make your decision.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Like that's literally it. It's like you should just accept things, just like going with the flow. But at the same time, just like you said, it's being able to, establish like, hey, like just like be able to organize yourself, manage time wisely, allocate resources, for you to be more productive, because there are people who are a bit extremely busy, but there's a difference between being busy and being productive. So a productive person is given 5 hours, they'll accomplish more than a guy who's, just not sleeping for 2 days trying to accomplish the same thing. So the first is, productive. The second is just busy. And I've learned to just live in the moment because I've always been, I think I told you this before we started, or maybe it was in the beginning, that I'm very, I guess, over analytical, and it has benefited me a lot in life in certain areas, in certain aspects of existence, I guess, but it has been kind of a gift and a curse, and the times that it has been a curse have been probably the most rough, I guess the roughest parts of my life or times of my life. And I was, again, getting just punched in the face so many times. You learn to just accept, live, and just go through the motions. And one of the things that Jocko Willink actually talks about, because he wakes up at 4:30 every single morning. So if I pull up his Instagram, actually, I'm going to do that because I find it fucking insane. So he's like a military guy, ex-military guy. Like he's just crazy. But in a good way. So you pull up his Instagram, as you can tell, it's 4:31, 4:32, 4:31, 4:32, and just
That is a great Instagram, by the way.
puddles of sweat. So it's just him, and then occasionally he gives off some motivational videos, and it's just, pictures of his calluses on his hands. It's just the time. It's just discipline. So his whole thing is that discipline equals freedom. And what he talks very adamantly about is just like, dude, like just go, like if you don't feel like working out, if you don't feel like doing something, if you don't feel like something that deep down in the depths of your person that you need to get done, just do it. Just fucking like go through the motions, just, and the things that you don't want to do, or the things that happen very negatively, like you have to understand that they're gonna happen. Like it is what it is. Like stop applying or adding these labels of like, oh, like this is a bad thing, this is a good thing. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in bad or good. I don't believe in, like things just are, and we have different interpretations depending on our circumstance. And so I learned that the very hard way of just like stop announcing things. Stop with Fiber, for example. I was announcing at one point very heavily spring 2019 on Instagram all the time, and I was very just excited about the whole thing, and I just let it overtake me. And then things happen, obstacles emerge, things fall through, you have to pivot, so it's not all rainbows and flowers and roses or whatever. So long story short, that deadline became unrealistic, and then I was left on the public stage, I guess, kind of, naked or in my underpants, and everybody laughing at me. It's like, but then again, that's adversity, and that just motivated me to like double down. So I got to that brink of like almost just giving up because things got very hard, not going to get really in depth with it, but basically the financials for the whole project kind of, there was a whole, problem with the finance company that was, working with me. And then certain things happened, structural issues in the building that I was kind of left to deal with. And it's just crazy amounts of, money that I didn't have at the time. And then that's when I really like, and it's funny because you get to a point where you're already like more than halfway there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, holy shit, like you just walk in one morning and the construction people just tell you like, hey, by the way, there's that little issue over there. And then that little thing just stems, that can like define your whole future. So that moment was the most ego humbling moments of my life. And I'm very thankful that it happened, because prior to that, just like I said, I was advertising it. I was talking about it. I still am. But now it's like more of a like, if people ask, oh, like, when is Fiber opening? I just say, I'm going to announce it a week prior. So when like everything's set in stone, I'll talk about it. I'll say like, oh, by the way, next week grand opening. And then boom, just catch everybody off guard. Like it could be in a month from now. It could be 2 months from now. It could be 3 months from now. And I'm not going to show like inside, like I'll probably show like, you know, gradual steps and before and after, just to keep people interested in whatever. But I'm not going to like force it. I'm not going to like say like set a time in stone, because then you set yourself up to fail. And that's what I did. And it was something that I couldn't control. It was something that just happened again. And I just pivoted. Like I pivoted drastically, but I managed to overcome that obstacle that was the biggest obstacle in my life, basically. But now I'm in a good place again, you know, and now things are actually moving forward, and I'm actually at a better place than I was before that, because, you know, I've managed to acquire more funding. And so, you know, it's over what I actually needed. So now I have like, you know, more to actually fall back on, and interest rates are going down. So like everything, it's crazy because everything kind of connects and clicks at the right time. So that happened. And then, and patience. But the whole ego thing is the most important thing to me, because editing these podcasts, like I'll notice my speech pattern, I'll notice my cadence, my just like everything that I do now, and then compare it to the initial podcast, like I'm just like starstruck. Well, not starstruck. I'm just kind of like, whoa, like what the fuck? Like that's a completely different human being, a better one, because of those experiences. But
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how much you learn from things that you think you're gonna not learn from, right?
Yeah, and it's dark too.
It is.
It's in like pure darkness that you find the most, I guess, fulfilling moments of your life. It's like I went through an extreme phase of just like depression. It's like days where I would just wake up, and it was shortly after that happened, and I was just like questioning, like I contemplated like thoughts of like very bad thoughts, you know, like things that I kind of like I was in it's a very dark time of my life, and I just felt that I wasn't in tune with anything. It was just everything was very dull. Everything was very dull. Like every interaction was dull. Everything was flavorless. Everything like lacked color. I would come down here and literally just in pure darkness, like no lights on, just sit here and just look at a wall. And I just started contemplating. I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? You know? And then I went through this phase of dwelling, of like just like dwelling on that pain, on that loss, on that failure, just like thinking about it, letting it consume me, letting it control me. And then it took me like weeks, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks for me to actually get back on my feet. And then once that phase is over and you overcome it, that's when you realize that, oh shit, like wait, like that doesn't mean that there's no solution to it. It's just one thing that happened. So don't let that one thing define you per se. Like let it motivate you to find different avenues.
Of course.
And then that's just where everything flourishes. And that's why that painting over there means so much to me. It's because like from the deep roots that nobody sees, that's where you establish the true foundation. And then what people see is the rose. So when Fiber is open, of course there'll be people who say, oh, like easy come up, or oh, like he came from a rich family. Like my family never really had shit. You know, the reason why we came here is to kind of like get a better life in a sense. Not that our life in Brazil was bad. Like we lived a very good life in Brazil. But, you know, just coming here and like seeking more and trying to like establish something. So we don't come from a pre-established foundation. So we have to always, you know, start building it. And that's why it means so much to me. It's like once it's up and running, I'll know what I went through. And that's really all that matters. It's like let people have their opinions, let people question, let people doubt, but I'll just do me now. And it's not establishing like, you know, whatever. And that's probably the deepest I've ever gotten on this episode, to be honest. It was just, it felt good though to like pour that out there, you know, like it feels good to,
putting it all out there, I feel, is always one of the best options. And a lot of times you don't want to do that, right? You just feel like you need to keep it in. But when you put it out, it's just like a really heavy load lifted off of your shoulders.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen, like I said, this is the first time we're meeting personally.
Mm-hmm.
But just from what I've seen, like, over the course of, like, I guess the year and a half, like, we've been in contact through social media. It's like how much hard work you're putting into the project, you know?
Appreciate it, yeah.
And, like, the dedication that you have. And, you know, it's just something to be admired. And I don't look at it like I'm oblivious to the situation. Like, I know that you probably went through a lot of like crap to get to where you are and eventually where you want to be, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just something that, like,
Yeah.
you know, anything is going to
appreciate
anything is going to come with, you know.
And likewise, man.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I told you, like, I wanted to have you on here, it's because you feel like, at least I feel when the person's right for the show, for like contacting stuff. And it's weird because, like, I always say this, we sit down as strangers, but then we leave the table like kind of knowing each other.
Yeah, of course.
You know? And the proof to that is that one of my best friends now is Steven, right? Steven, I did an episode with him, I think it was episode 7. We sat down complete strangers, right? And then we create that bond, and I guess, again, it's just creating bond based off of adversity. It's like, because it humanizes people. Yeah. It shows you that it's okay to, like, connect with people. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. And just like you said, I'm the person that tends to be just bottle everything up and just implode. So, like, that's my personality. Yeah. That's why, and it's something that I've tried changing, but it again, it is what it is. It's just the way I am. And that's why it took me a few weeks of just deep introspection and just self-doubt and just sitting in the dark and just by myself and just thinking and just getting in my head. And, you know, it leads you to very dark places, but then it takes a lot of pre-established, I guess, force, and I don't know.
I had a phase in my life where I also, like, bottle a lot of stuff up. And then came that phase in which I knew I shouldn't do that. Yeah. But I did the complete opposite. So if anyone, like, told me something and I wasn't taking anything. Okay. I was just like, if you said something to me that I didn't like, I'm gonna let you know it. Yeah. And I'm gonna make you feel horrible about yourself. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So I've graduated from that as well. Yeah. Like I said, I'm finding that healthy medium. It's
an eternal graduation, right? Exactly. This whole life experience.
And I might look back in 10 years and be like, what the hell is Luiz doing in, like, 2019? Like, who are you? Yeah. But, you know, I'm open to that, you know?
I do believe in that, you know, looking back, of, like, chasing. Do you know that speech from Matthew McConaughey of chasing the person that you'll be in 10 years? Yes. That's one of my favorite speeches. Yeah. And that's 100% what I kind of live by, too. It's not compare myself to anybody. I don't compare myself to... Because, like, people often say, like, oh, like, you know, like, you're trying to be like Joe Rogan. You're trying to be like Christian Guzman. You're trying to be like Gary Vee. You're trying to be all these people. And I listen to that, and I'm just like, why does it have to be a comparison? Like, why can't I be, you know, compared to the person I'm going to be one day? And that's what I keep comparing myself to. It's like, who am I going to be in 10 years? Is that person going to look back? Is he going to be satisfied? Is he going to be content? Is he going to be proud? Is he going to, you know, it's not my dad, it's not, you know, anybody else but that person that I've yet to meet, I've yet to discover, I've yet to engage with. And that person is myself. And so once I set that standard, that bar, I'm the one who controls it. I'm the one that adjusts the levels of expectations. I'm the one, so it's a lot of responsibility.
Of course.
That's why it's easy for you to, like, aspire to be someone else. Because setting your own standards, it's almost as if, like, you're editing a picture or a video, and then you have to do all the color coding. It's much easier for you to get a template and just work off of that, rather than starting from scratch and look and trying to understand, like, which one, but my skin's lighter or darker from so-and-so's videos, so I have to adjust the lighting, otherwise it'll look weird.
Of course.
And that's what Victor brought up on his episode, which stuck with me, is the template thing. We should aspire to gather things from people. So, like, Jocko, I gathered the discipline equals freedom aspect, extreme ownership, discipline, basically. So he contributed to my discipline. But I'm not trying to be like Jocko. I'm not going to start taking pictures of my watch and trying to get a better watch and trying to get it, you know, better angles. No, that's just stupid.
And there are always going to be people who are going to be trying to compare you and, like, always try to tell you that you're trying to be somewhere else. I mean, I've gotten that plenty of times. Like, I'm in a position in my life where, I've had many, I've had the courtesy to meet a lot of people who have a certain level of fame, right? And, really get to know them. And a lot of times, like, people will come up to me like, who do you think you are? I was like, what do you mean? Yeah. It's like, oh, you're going around. It's like, you're just a kid from Newark. You're just a kid from Brazil. Like, where are you trying to go? I was like, I'm just trying to, live my life. And, I'm thankful for a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten, and I've been able to see a lot of the other side, especially from these people who are famous. I've been able to talk to them and get to know. And I'd say people who are famous, a lot of them are in the world of sports, right?
Yeah.
And so you also see that in them as well. Yeah. Like, so many people trying to tell these people, like, who are you trying to be? Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People just many times can't accept that you want to be your own person. Yeah. You're always going to be trying to draw a comparison, right?
That's great that you say that, because, like, for example, Drake, someone can go up to Drake and say, despite all of your obvious accomplishments and your success and hard work, you'll never be like Tupac, Drake, or you'll never be like Biggie Smalls, and then they probably turned to Tupac and Biggie and said, like, you'll never be like Run DMC or some shit like that, so it's always it's always a constant comparison. It's always trying to justification. People love it. They love trying to understand things, right? And so when they can't understand things, they get frustrated, and then that's when ignorance comes into play. It's like, if you're not open enough and willing to put the energy and effort into understanding Lewis and understanding his path and his journey, then you'll obviously just associate like a wannabe label to him, or self-indulged, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But those are like, those people, gladly, they're easy to kind of spot. So it's easier for you to kind of maneuver through those crowds and through those rooms. So those people now, I just smile. I'm like, huh, of course. Like,
that's what I've learned to do.
Thank you. I've been, again, people have said, like, oh, like, you're trying to be like Gary Vee or Christian Guzman because of the podcast, or Joe Rogan because of the podcast, or Christian Guzman because of Fiber Fitness, or Gary Vee because of the vlogs I was doing. And then I just smile. I'm like, haha. That's how I brush it off. I'm not going to confront that person, because that person already presents to me the fact that they're not willing to give me the credentials that I feel I deserve. But that's relative, because deservance is relative. But either way, like just like you said, like, and that I really appreciate, is the fact that you acknowledge the effort that goes into everything that I'm doing. So, like, that acknowledgement, not saying that I rely on it to keep going, but it does add on, right? Like, it's definitely a motivating factor for me, as opposed to you saying, like, oh, like, yeah, like, one day you'll be like Joe Rogan. It's like, oh, or like, okay, cool, like, that level of, of success maybe, but, like, not being like him. Like, I'm not gonna shave my head. I'm not gonna, do anything like that. Start jujitsu. I might, but it's gonna be inspired by.
Yeah, it's gonna be something that, came from you.
Yeah,
rooted from you.
Yeah.
It's not because shit, Joe Rogan does jujitsu. He's a black belt. He does this. He does that. He hunts and he kills his own food. It's like, I'm not gonna start doing that just because I want to be like Joe Rogan. I'm doing it. If I do it, it's because I'm doing it for me.
It's because you resonated with that idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who do you look up to? Like, what's your, like, do you have any idols? And basing off of what we just, talked about, it's like looking up to, aspiring, and I guess who gives you the most value?
One person, I mean, obviously my dad, but someone more like the public guy that I just look up to immensely is Kaka.
Kaka?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Just because, I mean, he started off his career, he went professional at like 16, right? Ever since his first interviews, he has always been very adamant about who he is. And now that he's like in his mid 30s, he's still the same person. Not the same person in the sense that, like, but
just character. And
exactly, his character,
strength of character.
Exactly. His opinions, a lot of them are still the same. and he knew who he was. He knew what he was getting into. He knew he was going to be in the public eye. He never hid, he never hid from the fact that the actual facts from his life.
Yeah.
Because, like, you see a lot of soccer players in Brazil, for example. They come up from nothing, right? A lot of them. Favelas.
Yeah. Slums.
Slums.
Yeah.
That's where they learn how to play soccer. For example, Kaká came from, like, a high middle-class family. He never hid that. He's like, I'm not going to make up, like, a sob story.
Just to sell myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I came from a good family. My dad had good money.
Yeah.
We weren't, like, dirt rich,
Yeah.
But we were, I had a good situation. And that's only, and also his, I also connect with his Christianity as well. He was always an open Christian, never hid the fact. And that's also who, not that I want to be like him, right? But that's also something that inspires me. Because, like, I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm a Christian just so, like, I'm accepted into, like, a certain group,
Yeah.
And, it's who I am. It's who, I have my stances on stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand by that.
Yeah. It's powerful. Yeah. That I asked that because the whole idea of, like, idols is always fascinating to me. Like, similar to Kaká, like, I'll have people who I admire, right? And that level of admiration varies. For example, I admire Jocko, but not as much as I admire, let's say, Kanye West, or as I admire J. Cole, or as I admire Michael Scott. Like, there's, like, different levels in different sectors. Like, they all bring value to different aspects of my life. And yeah, like, that's definitely the right way to look at it, because you've broken him down to, like, his core values. So it's, like, strength of value, like, it's his strength of being. It's not like some kids maybe aspire to be like Kaká because of his wife, because of his house, because of his cars, because of his professional career, because of his moves or whatever. That's great too, right? But the right way, I think, again, right, wrong, good, bad, it's relative. So it's up to each person. But
No
I think
one's perfect either,
Yeah, I think that the biggest value is to be found in, just the core, I guess, value that the person has to contribute to you. So that's why I always, like, try to police myself, and, like, when it comes to idols and looking up to people, it's like you have to be careful, because you don't want to be, like, stripped away from your own humanity just to try to replicate someone else's. And all of this that's happening is a shared experience. Like, we're all going through this crazy thing that we call life together. We're all enduring these crazy moments, these great moments, bad moments, again, good and bad. It just is. I think that's the main takeaway from this whole podcast is things just are pain. And what else would you say? Acceptance, pain, and
I guess this hasn't been, like, explicitly said on in our conversation, but I guess knowing your worth.
Yeah, that's big.
Knowing your worth, you're not gonna, like, for example, you and the whole Fiber project. You know what you have been doing. You know what's been going on, and you're also gonna not. I don't know if demand's the word, but you know what you're putting out there, and so you're gonna expect something back.
Yeah.
And so you have to know that what you're working for is something important.
Yeah.
And the more you know that, the more successful I think it'll be.
Yeah. The more valuable it'll be.
Yes.
To you and to other people. Yeah. Because just like basically it's putting in extra effort in order to cultivate the fruits that most people, I guess, won't cultivate because they haven't put in that effort. So it's like it's thought, it's effort, it's just all these things. It's adding, unorthodox methods. It's trying to, I guess, create something unique, know, and from uniqueness comes criticism. It comes failure. It comes just all of the above. Yeah. And let me just check how long that we've been rolling, because I think that we could start wrapping this up. And then, so 2 hours and a half.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. So, as you probably know, at the end of every podcast, I like to ask the guest to speak into the microphone and convey a message, utter anything that you want into the microphone. It could be follow me on the gram, drink more water, be happy, anything. Just, you have this opportunity. Every single human being on this planet is listening in. They all have an earpiece that translates whatever you're saying. They understand you completely. And you have this opportunity now on the world stage to speak to every single one of them. What would you say if you had the opportunity?
I would say you are the person that you are, and do not be afraid to put that out there. Do not be afraid to be yourself. Don't hide things for acceptance. And like we were just saying before, know your worth. Yeah, I think that would be it.
Yeah. That was amazing, dude. That was
Awesome.
that was easily one of the most, I guess, emotion-packed ones where I actually, felt not that I didn't really feel comfortable with like past guests. It's just, again, it's circumstance. It's like one thing led to another. So we kind of gradually got to a certain point in the conversation that allowed me to, open up, and you open up about the whole, current situation of like being a pastor's son and just going through those motions and going through that experience. And we touched on a lot of experiences, and I do think that this episode it's just very valuable, and it'll resonate with people because it's very human, everything that we did, everything that we talked about. And I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome.
And just
supporting,
believing in the project. We'll definitely have to do a part 2,
of course,
in the near future. Hopefully it'll be in the Fiber studio, actually, which is going to be more, produced and stuff. But yeah, so thank you for coming on.
Of course,
thank you for watching, guys. Do you want to shout out your Instagram?
If you guys want to follow me, it's Luiz with a Z, LUIZ, .ec.hayes, REIS.
Yeah. And so follow him on the gram, follow him on social media, and look forward to next episodes. Yep. So thanks for watching, guys. Peace.